What's this? A letter for me.
Welcome to another episode of Remember the Great Sports Through the Mail Thursdays. I'm going to share with you 3 recent returns that I just got back in the mail and profile each of the individuals that signed autographs for me. So the first return comes back from Ohio, and it actually is a return from a card you've already seen on this channel, and it's a return from Galen Cisco on 4 of 4. And this is a Trader Jack McKeon manager card, and Galen Cisco was on his coaching staff back in the 70s. Unfortunately, Charlie Wow passed away in the 1980s, the other guy on the card, and I really messed up, and I didn't get Harry Dunlap to sign this, as he just recently passed away in 2022. So this is unfortunately as complete as the card can be as me shooting this video. So let me tell you about Galen Cisco and his career in baseball. Galen Cisco, an Ohio native, attended high school in Ohio and later went on to play college baseball and college football at The Ohio State University. Cisco was such a talent on the football field that he actually played both ways, both fullback and linebacker for Ohio State. He was on the 1957 Ohio State Buckeyes football team that won the national championship with a 9-1 record, as he was the captain of that team and earned All-American and All-Big Ten honors that year. As a pitcher at Ohio State, he compiled a 12-2 win-loss record on the pitching mound. Before the 1958 season, the Boston Red Sox signed Galen to a free agent contract and assigned him that year to their Class D affiliate, and he eventually moved up to their Class B affiliate. Well, his first year, he just went 6-12 between those two stops in 32 games. The following year, in 1959, he would play for the D, B, and Class A affiliate of the Red Sox, but he would improve his record to 17-10, 17 wins and 10 losses, and posted a 2.50 ERA in 30 games that year. The following year, in 1960, he would get called up to AAA. His record would dip to just 3-7, but he would post a 2.93 ERA in 33 games. In 1961, he got off to a hot start in AAA. He had started 9 games, appearing in 9 games, and posted a 6-win, 1-loss record with just a minuscule 1.54 ERA. And the Boston Red Sox took notice of this, and on June 11th, 1961, just after a couple months into the season, Galen Cisco was called up to the major leagues. Before a crowd of just 18,000 in Fenway Park, the historic Fenway Park, Cisco made his debut as the starting pitcher. However, things didn't go so well for him, and he lasted just 2 1/3 innings, gave up 5 hits and 5 earned runs. Eventually, they would drop the game 10-5, despite the Red Sox making a late inning comeback. In the 9th inning, which had nothing to do with Cisco at that point, the Red Sox gave up 4 runs, putting it out of reach. And so Galen Cisco's pitching career began, and it was with a loss. He would finish out the year appearing in 17 games for the Red Sox, starting 8 of them that year, and he would post a 2-win, 4-loss record in his appearances that year. In 1962, he would split time between the Boston Red Sox, again being a spot starter, appearing in 23 games. At this point, he posted a 4-7 record, and he was then selected off waivers by the expansion New York Mets. Well, the Mets found a place for him right away on their staff, and he finished out the year appearing in 4 games, splitting his record to just 1-1. The next year, in 1963, the Mets were still a relatively young team, and Cisco would do his spot starter business, but he would appear in 51 games that year for the Mets, starting 17 of them, and his win-loss record was 7 wins and 15 losses. The following year, in 1964, he would have 25 starts in 36 games, and his win-loss record would dip down to just 6-19 that year in 1964. But the bright spot was his ERA was just 3.62. In 1965, the Mets' growing pains continued, and he appeared in 35 games, starting 17 and posting a 4-8 record that year. After being demoted to the minors in 1966, he would be let go by the Mets, and he would re-sign with the team that originally drafted him, the Red Sox. He would spend the 1967 season in their AAA affiliate mainly, posting a 3-5 record in 14 games. He would also spend 11 games in the major leagues, posting a 0-1 record in that 67 season. When 1968 rolled around, the Red Sox didn't have a spot for him, and they moved him to their AAA affiliate, where he started 29 games, posting an 11-12 record. Towards the end of the 1968 season, the Royals purchased the contract of Cisco. The Royals, another expansion team, so now he's played for 2 expansion teams in his career, utilized him in 1969 for just 10 games in AAA, and in 1969 he would appear in 15 games for the Royals that season. So that's him on a Royals card, even though they airbrushed his hat out there. The following year, in 1970, he would be relegated just to the AAA affiliate, appearing in 24 games for the Royals. And at age 34, Cisco no longer was playing in professional baseball. So almost immediately after his playing career, Cisco became a pitching coach for the Kansas City Royals, as you can see on the card there, the Montreal Expos, the San Diego Padres, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Philadelphia Phillies for parts of 28 years. He spent 6 seasons with the Toronto Blue Jays from 1990 to 95, helping them win their 2 World Series titles. He would then bounce around for some of the other affiliates, but he also was with the Philadelphia Phillies from 1997 to 2000. So Cisco is now 87 years old as of me shooting this episode, and this is another one of those guys that had a long career in baseball, but a lot of people do not know the fact that he played college football as well, and was one of the best in college football, winning a national championship. So thank you, Mr. Cisco, for signing, and we'll move on to the next return. All right, this next return is a return from another long-time baseball person. And I say long time in the fact that he not only was a player, but also was a coach for many years, and even had a short stint as a manager. And I am talking about former pitcher Phil Regan on 3 of 3. I only had 3 of his vintage cards, because at one point in my life I actually did meet Mr. Regan as a pitching coach on one of the minor league affiliates, and he signed some cards for me then. So this is all that I had in my collection. So let me tell you about Phil Regan and his career in baseball. Regan, also a multi-sport athlete, played basketball, football, and baseball while in high school, and later went to go play baseball at Western Michigan University. After 1 year at Western Michigan University, the Detroit Tigers signed him in 1956. Well, his 1956 season in the Class D affiliate of the Tigers was phenomenal, to say the least. He posted 17 wins and 9 losses that first year for the Tigers D affiliate, appearing in 34 games, starting 28 of them. Well, the next year at 20 years old, the Tigers tested him in their Class B affiliate, and he posted a 9-14 win-loss record. Well, determined as Phil was, he got moved up to Double-A the next year, and he bounced back in 35 games, posting a 15-8 record for the season in the Tigers Double-A affiliate. The next year, in 1959, he would start the season out in Double-A. However, he would be promoted to Triple-A, and he would post an 11-8 record between those 2 stops in 1959. In 1960, he would post a 9-3 record through 23 games in their AAA affiliate. And on July 19th, 1960, Phil Regan would come in a relief appearance for Don Mossy in Tiger Stadium, or Briggs Stadium. And in his debut, he was exceptional in relief for Mossy. He pitched in 5 innings that day, only gave up 2 hits, struck out 3, and just had 1 earned run. Phil would finish out the year appearing in 17 games that year for the Tigers, starting 7 of them. The following year, in 1961, Phil earned a spot in the bullpen for the Tigers, where he appeared in 32 games, starting 16 and posting a 10-7 record. The following seasons, 1962 to 64, Regan would be in the bullpen. In 63, he would post a 15-9 record for the Tigers. In 1965, things would fall off the rails a little bit for him, where he would post just a 1-5 record in 16 games. However, the following year, in 1966, he would have a season that he wouldn't forget. After the 65 season, the Tigers decided to trade him to the Los Angeles Dodgers for Dick Tracewski. Well, his first year in Los Angeles, Dick had a season to remember. He appeared in 48 games that year for the Dodgers, posted a 14-1 record with a 1.62 ERA in 65 games, saving 21 games for the 66 Dodgers. This, of course, earned him an all-star appearance for his one and only time in his career. And the following year, in 1967, he did not have so much success in the win-loss column, as he just went 6-9, but his ERA was still under 3 in the 55 games that he pitched in. The following year, in 1968, he would start out the year with the Dodgers. He would go 2-0 in just 5 starts, and then the Dodgers just decided to trade him in that 68 season to the Chicago Cubs in April of that season for a couple players, Jim Ellis and Ted Savage. Well, he would become a very important part of the Cubs bullpen that year. He would appear in 68 games, posting a 10-5 record with just a 2.20 ERA. The following year, he would post a 12-6 record with the Cubs in 1969 in 71 games. And this was the 1969 Cubs that was pretty epic. They epically had a lead and they lost it to the Mets, which eventually the Mets went on to win the World Series. And we'll talk about Regan's relationship with the Mets here in a few minutes. The following year, in 1970 and 71, he would still be with the Cubs and appear in 54 and 48 games respectively that year. In 1972, he would appear in just 5 games for the Cubs before he would move across town and finish out the year with the Chicago White Sox that year. At the age of 35, retired as a player. Immediately upon retirement, Regan went into coaching. He accepted his first coaching job at Grand Valley State University, which was in his home state of Michigan, simply because it was close to his home. He was a head coach from 1973 to 82, winning the Great Lakes Conference title and the NAIA District 23 championship 2 times while there. With Regan's work at Grand Valley, he got a call from the Seattle Mariners general manager at the time, Dan O'Brien Sr., and after spending the 1983 season as the Mariners minor league pitching instructor and advanced scout, Regan was promoted to the Major League pitching coach position in 1984. Regan would stay with the Mariners through the 1986 season, and then in 1987 he began a 6-year stint with the Dodgers, where he had his best success as their Major League special assignment and advanced scout. He would work through the Dodgers through the 1994 season, where he would join the Cleveland Indians for a year. The 1994 season was strike shortened, but in 1995, Regan was offered the manager job of the Baltimore Orioles. During his time with the Orioles, he posted a 71-73 record. The Orioles ultimately missed the playoffs, and after just 1 season at the helm, Regan was fired and replaced by Davey Johnson. Regan would go on to work for other organizations such as the Detroit Tigers, which is where he started out his career. He would be a coach with the West Michigan Whitecaps from 2002 to 2003, and this is when I met him, when he was doing that. He would also work for the Mets for their system as a minor league assistant pitching coordinator and also as a pitching coach in their minor league affiliates. He was then, in 2019, promoted to the New York Mets after Dave Island was fired from the Mets, and then he decided to retire after that season. So going back to the Mets, the irony is they were having the anniversary of the 1969 New York Mets championship team, and Phil Regan was part of the Cubs team that collapsed to the New York Mets, and he had to sit in the dugout and watch all this 1969 reunion stuff where he was on the team that ultimately collapsed to the New York Mets. So in addition to all of the things that Phil did, in his illustrious career, even through 2020, he coached in the Dominican League in the off season. He was the pitching coach on Team USA's Olympic-winning Summer Olympics team in the year 2000. So this is another one of those lifetime baseball guys that I always talk about on my channel that, signed out of at a very young age in high school, worked his way up through the minors, pitched in the major leagues for a long time. Phil got the nickname the Vulture because of his late inning pitching status, so to speak. He would always be able to get batters out, and they called him the Vulture because of that, which I thought was pretty cool. If I would have known that before I did his episode, I would have asked him to inscribe the Vulture on one of those, but I didn't think of it. So very happy to profile Phil Regan and his long-time career in baseball, and we'll move on to the final return. All right, so this next one is a project, and you've seen this in my card show pickups. And this is a return from Astros rookie star card Norm Miller on 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the hope is I can send these to Doug Rader and get him to sign those as well, as Doug's a great signer through the mail as well. So let me tell you about Norm Miller and his career in baseball. Norm Miller was born in Los Angeles, California, and attended Van Nuys High School in the class of 1964. Originally signed out of high school by the Los Angeles Angels as a second baseman at 18 years of age. He batted .301 for the Quad City Angels in the Midwest League in 1964, and then was selected by the Houston Astros in the 1964 Rule 5 draft. It was at this point he switched to the outfield. He began the 1965 season playing for the Amarillo Sonics of the Texas League, the Houston Astros affiliate, where he batted .289, had 20 home runs and 92 RBIs. The Colt 45s, being an expansion team at the time, noticed what this guy did in Double-A for them, and they called him up on September 11th, 1965, and at just 19 years old, Norm Miller made his Major League debut. He would make his Major League debut in the hometown of Los Angeles against his hometown Los Angeles Dodgers, playing for the Colt 45s. In his first at-bat, Norm would get a hit. And Norm would stick with the team for 11 more games throughout the year. However, the next year in 1966, the Colt 45s decided they needed more season in the minor leagues, and they sent him back down to Triple-A. While he was in Triple-A, he did struggle a little bit with his batting average. However, he did appear in 11 more games in 1966 for the Astros. The following year in 67 was more of the same. He split time between the Astros Triple-A affiliate and their Major League club. This year he got to appear in 64 games for the Astros in 1967. In 1968, again, he spent time in Triple-A. However, he did appear in 79 games for the 68 Astros. The following year, in 1969, he made the club, and he would stick with the Astros. And this year, he would actually be their full-time outfielder, posting a .264 batting average in 119 games. The following year, in 1970, Norm would be relegated to kind of a platoon role as he was a left-handed bat. And he would appear in 90 games for the Astros that year. 1971 and 72 were more of the same, where he would primarily be with the Astros in a utility, backup outfielder role. He would start the 1973 season with the Astros. However, they decided to trade him on April 22nd to the Atlanta Braves for Cecil Upshaw. He would remain with the Braves the rest of that season, appearing in just 9 games in the 1973 season for them. In 1974, he would appear in 42 games for the Atlanta Braves. Overall in his career, Norm played 10 years in the major leagues, appearing in 540 games, posting a lifetime .238 batting average. Another thing to point out about Norm is, in 2009, he published a memoir entitled All My Fans from Norm Who. He also, still to this day, according to his Wikipedia page, opened a camp hardball at baseball school in 2004. He also serves as a sports radio host on Saturdays on a radio station in the Houston area. So very happy to add Norm to the collection and his autographs. I'm hoping that I get Doug Rader to finish those off. Very happy to add Phil Regan to the collection as well. Very happy to add Galen Cisco on his cards to the collection as well. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this episode. I hope you learned a little bit about some players from the 1960s that you may not have known about. I look forward to sharing some more stories like this on my channel. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely leave me some comments and likes down below. And as always, happy collecting.